I think you're going to be amazed at how easy buttonholes are on the Pfaff Performance 5.2 sewing machine. So number one, there's a whole section of buttonholes in your utility stitches, and on page 3 here, buttonholes. Now once again, if you don't know what all these different kinds are, touch the question mark and it will tell you what kind of buttonhole it is or where it could be used for. Here we also have a bound buttonhole option, and also for sewing on our button, which we'll do also. I want to show you how to do a buttonhole first that is censored, meaning we can tell it how long we want it to be, and then it's just going to do it, which is the best way to do a buttonhole. We're going to do not a bound buttonhole, a corded buttonhole, and then also a manual buttonhole, so you don't have control over how long those are. So the first foot we are going to use is the foot number 5A, just like it says, and it also has a little picture of, it looks like a little piece of paper, but what it's referencing is some stabilizer. So you do always need to have something supportive for the buttonholes, otherwise sometimes things just don't line up as perfect. The other thing I want to show you is that there is a little red arrow down here, and when I start, I'm going to set it so that red arrow is in that cutout. So it will be, that's where it needs to start. And then there's a place to plug it in. So first off, we do need to disengage the IDT, so remove it completely. And I put on the foot first and then plug it in, but whatever works for you. And the plug-in is halfway between the front of the machine and the back, and there's a little opening for it. I do want you to make sure that when you plug it in that you really get a good push on it. And actually, you can see right here on screen when I get it plugged in all the way, and I'm even hearing it switch over. I actually had it in its position here. Now let's find it. There we go. Once you kind of know where to go. Once you have it plugged in all the way, you will notice that the middle part here changes to a 16, which is 16 millimeters. It thinks it wants to start at a 16 millimeter buttonhole, which is great if you're just trying it out for the first time. You can just use that length. But let's say you actually have a button that you need to make buttonholes for. So you take your button and come to the very end of the top lid with all the decorative stitches, and you notice there is a small measuring area. Set the button at 0, which is at the top, and then look to see how long this is. So this buttonhole, or this button, is measured 18 millimeters long. So instead of 16, I'm going to plus it to 17 and 18. Now it is set to make the perfect length. You also see on the screen that the green plus is where it's going to start, and the arrow pointing away from it should give you this indication of where, which direction it's going to sew first. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this all the way in, set my foot slide so the red arrow matches up into that little notch I showed you. And then I'm going to just let it stitch. So all I have to do is step on the foot control and let the whole entire buttonhole be stitched out. It's going to start off with stitches straight back, so there's nothing fancy until you get going. And okay, I'm going to be lazy. I'm going to just go ahead and push the start or play button so I don't even have to hold on to my presser foot while I'm stitching. It's just going to do it went back to do the tack. Now it's coming forward. It's going to tack at the bottom. And it's programmed to even have the cut and the foot lift in once it's done. So really just hang out until it's done and you have a perfect buttonhole. You can open that up if it's the perfect size for the button. You can go ahead and put starting points for where all the other buttonholes need to actually begin. Put your needle down into that start point and it will do them perfect every single time. So again, try out the different buttonholes. I just take a little bit of fabric and then stitch them all out, because you'll notice they all have different ends. Some have a keyhole to them, some have a straight top, some have a pointy top. Some are meant for knit fabric, and some are meant to not be stitched with the, let's find one, that's not supposed to be stitched with the sensor foot. Maybe? No, so far so all of these are set up for that. All right. So manual buttonholes, let me just go ahead and we'll do the same one, but this time being in charge of how long I would need that to be. So when I'm doing it this way, we're going to use the 5 foot, but the M, in M for manual, so we can do that. And so the machine doesn't know where it's going to be, how long it's going to be stitching. And that's why when I have this foot unplugged, here we go, that the reverse button shows up. So what it's going to do is go ahead and just let me start to stitch. I would recommend having 2 marks, one at the top and one at the bottom. So I'd stitch up to the top mark, and then I'm going to touch the reverse button 1 time, and they'll do the tack, and now stitching down towards where I started. So I have to stop it when I get back down to where I was, touch the reverse button when I'm ready for some locking stitches, and it will take care of the rest. That was 4 steps, and we're done. I did a little tiny one. There we go, buttonhole. So if I was repairing one, or if I was doing one that's longer than the presser foot that we used first would allow me to do, this would be the way to go ahead and do it. And it looks like, oh, is that what I think it is? I bet it has remembered the length that I just did. Yes, because there's a little green, kind of looks like a repeat symbol. And sure enough, once you've done one that way, it will remember and do a second one. I love it. All right, so that's something I was not expecting, but that's obvious now that I see it. So what is a corded buttonhole? And I'm actually going to do this with just the regular manual foot. You can do it also with the automatic foot, so I'll show you both ways. You notice on the back end of the foot, there's kind of these little extra holders, and you can take some cord and you put it in the holder there, and as you bring it up the front holders, you can see that it perfectly lays the cord where the satin stitches will cover it up. So that way you get a very reinforced buttonhole, and I can do this with this regular foot because it can just slide right over the back. Let me see if I can get it. Here we go. I'll do it the normal way. 2 hands across, catch it and flip it underneath, because once you start stitching, it really kind of does the whole guiding for you. We'll just do the same one that's programmed and repeat for a corded buttonhole. And I don't know why I think I need to hold the cord, but it's being guided by the grooves that are on the underneath side of the foot. So I'll show you what you do once you've stitched it. And I'll show you the grooves that I was just referencing. So see those little grooves? That's where the cord was actually being guided. So it stays in the grooves. After it's done, what you have is a little loop at the top. And all you need to do is actually give your cord a little pull. And it pulls in, and then you cut right down here. And then now you have a almost really nice, thick, stable buttonhole that's good for fabrics that are a little bit squishy, like a wool, like for wool coats or something, or just something that you really just want to have that extra, it feels good and it looks good finish, is do a corded buttonhole. So try them all out. You can see all the looks that you have built into this fabulous machine.